All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, guys. Today I'm with Dr. Karim Smith, okay, specializing in the area of fertility. Today we're here to talk about an area in medicine and lifestyle that is affecting a lot of persons. And Doc, you mentioned that you are an active individual. So is that a situation where you find helpful in fertility or?
Yes, naturally. I view health as holistic. It's not just physical, it's also mental, spiritual, emotional. So, all the areas in which you can, I guess, find happiness,
Right.
not just the absence of disease, but it's a complete focus. I look at health and activity. Well, you would know, feel good hormones. So whatever you're doing in motion, your body will release endorphins to make you feel good, which work as anti-inflammatory compounds. So you get this natural high. So playing sports, going for a gentle walk, yoga, whatever the case may be. So activity does contribute to your physical health, and naturally being physically healthy will also impact your fertility.
Okay, let's get into it a little in a little bit more depth in terms of the how much activity and what type of activity you would say is recommended for the average person that potentially could be at risk for fertility issues.
All right. So the I guess understanding what can impact fertility, one should see it as it's multifactorial, right? So it's not just a direct thing of activity alone or lack of activity alone that impacts fertility. World Health Organization now recommend up to 150 minutes per week of cardiovascular type activity. However you want to spread that over 7 days, it's determinant upon you. But once you can get blood flow going to the area, once there is no other underlying factor, and when I say underlying, I mean any congenital problems that you're born with, infectious problems, I guess traumatic causes, anything that might impact the reproductive area or even hormonal, the brain function chemistry does affect fertility. So anything that's not impacting that, then you should be more fertile, so to speak. So it's not a single connection between just physical and health, but the more physically fit you are, provided there are no other underlying factors, then in theory should be more fertile, so to speak. But we get more into it.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the profile of the type of individuals that come in to may seek out fertility treatment. Just a little bit of a history also behind, because fertility treatment is the solution. What's the situation behind, I mean, men, women accepting that there is an issue and they need treatment?
All right. So infertility is defined as couples trying to have or to conceive after 1 year and there is no pregnancy. And that's up to 35. But if you're past 35, for women, it's considered advanced maternal age, and it now goes down to 6 months, right? And recent studies now have come out to show that men also, averaging between the age 40-45, there are a higher proportion of, I guess, greater difficulty for them to know, I guess, better have a viable pregnancy with a female. So the profile of the partners coming in, they tend to be older, mostly with women 40 and above, professional women, but not only, because the groups are so varied, and also men, mostly older men. And when I say older, 40, 45. But that's notwithstanding that younger men do not also have issues, because at Jamaica Fertility, we've created a local sperm bank, and you do see young men, when I say young men, anywhere from 18 to 35 with infertility problems, or when I say infertility problems with the morphology of the sperm, motility of the sperm. So there are some
And that
other problems.
potentially, could we say, is concerning with lifestyle? Why these younger men are
Most definitely lifestyle would be one of the strong confounders to impact the fertility. And under the lifestyle bracket now, this is where we can get into, sedentary lifestyle, because now we've moved so much into a sedentary lifestyle. People can work from home. They're sitting down mostly. You're on devices. Dr. Carol, our founder, she did a study where she had her PhD student, now Dr. Lance, big up. They found that electromagnetic radiation, so placing the laptop on your laps or even the phones in your pockets and so on, can impact the morphology and the motility of sperm. And that is on the background of, say, sedentary lifestyle. The food you eat, you're a nutritionist, so you probably could tell me a lot about the different type of foods that can impact your microenvironment and how sperm is made. The whole fact that we drink so much fluids now out of plastics, they're finding microplastics in the sperm, bisphenol A. The general lack of eating fresh foods, with antioxidants that can help to mop up free radicals that can affect the DNA. So the list can go on and on. We talk about the air. We walk outside and we're not seeing the smoke as much, but the smoke is there. So you have the VOCs in the atmosphere, the volatile organic contaminants, which affect your microenvironment. So there are so many component factors that can affect fertility. But in terms of finding the one area, we recommend education, consultation, and taking a proper history. And from there, we can more pinpoint what exactly the issue may be.
What is your take on what you've seen with the use of alcohol? Because I've seen some fertility doctors or people within the space say moderate alcohol usage is fine, but then I've seen also where some fertility experts say, why any? Because there's zero benefits to any alcohol. What's your take on that?
Well, if you look on what is alcohol, how is alcohol made, right? You could get energy from alcohol. You can get food and calories from alcohol. The issue with alcohol is that if it's too much, and as the key word you mentioned is moderation. Your tolerance for alcohol might be different from my tolerance of alcohol. My system might eliminate the alcohol faster than your system may eliminate it. But once your liver starts detoxifying alcohol, it's going to produce aldehydes. And aldehydes are toxic to the body. So our body is going to try and get rid of it. Now, if I'm having a Red Stripe beer, I don't know, was it 4 or 5% alcohol, as opposed to white rum, 63% alcohol, and I'm drinking the same volume, naturally you expect the higher concentration to have more impact on your body. Are you going to drink cup after cup after cup and binge drink? That will be harmful. But if it's maybe a quarter of a cup once for the month, I'm not the doctor to say you should not do that, because the moderation is so small that the impact of it is probably on remark is nothing as compared to someone now who will sit and down a bottle after bottle, and you're what we classify as an alcoholic. So I wouldn't say there's that direct link. What alcohol will do is change the microenvironment and affect one thing, like your liver, which will have a cascade of other problems down the road. But the key word is moderation. Yeah.
Wow. So, young men, young women, fertility challenges that they didn't expect to happen.
Yeah. Right.
Well, particularly the young men who go in to become sperm donors, what type of reaction do they get when they find out that their sperm is not as high quality as they thought it was?
Right. It's quite damaging to the male ego, and our culture in that regard can be culturally abrasive. We use terms gelding, welded nuts. There are quite a few of them that, and we may laugh, but behind the scenes it really affects them, because who would have thought that you're this image of what good health should look like, but then when it comes to fertility health, there's a problem.
Right.
And the problems mostly will vary from the volume of the sperm, the quality of the sperm, and that's motility and morphology. So I've seen, if anybody sees the actual sperm cell, it's like a tadpole. There's a head with a neck and a swimming tail. So that's actually the sperm cell. So when a man has an ejaculate, the fluid comes out, he believes nothing is wrong, but that's just a mixture. Most of it, 95% of it is fluid, and that's coming from the different parts of the anatomy. The prostate gland secretes some, the seminiferous vesicles, the different areas, and it makes a mixture. But inside of the mixture now, you have the sperm cell, and when we're doing a semen analysis, that's what we look at. So we have to educate now the guys coming in, the sperm donors, the potential patients, that although you're seeing fluid after an ejaculate, it does not mean that the content is between the 15 to 150 million sperm cells that should be there and that's classified as normal. Because if you're below that, then there's a classification that basically you're not meeting the criteria, you know. So it's always a shock to them, but then we try and explain to them, and once there is understanding, it helps them to, you know, mitigate against that feeling that, you know, something is wrong. But I've never really seen a man happy about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the profile of some of these men in terms of, I guess, even profession, we're seeing, well, we've heard like persons in traditionally active roles like police officers, soldiers,
right.
who wouldn't expect to have a damaging profile like that. Because I mean, if you're going to recruit men for the business that you're in,
Right.
You would typically probably go for the most active career paths within the society. But then, you know, the data is saying otherwise as well now. So a lot of these soldiers and police officers who traditionally were active in activity, the opportunity to just grab a box food every day, over time, I guess it's taking its toll.
Yes.
Because the men of 30 years ago in these active roles are totally different to what we're getting today.
Yes, and that difference is on a multiplicity of reasons. Again, we would talk about the nutrition. So our nutrition over 30 years ago, you know, it has changed. We are importing a lot more foods now. The palate of the Jamaican has changed compared to what our grandparents would eat, compared to what maybe the population is eating now. But to shift focus a bit on the males, so the soldiers and the police, something as simple as wearing the proper underwear, because Jamaica is a tropical country, and if you're out there, well, barring that recent cold front, it's hot. And if you know about the anatomy of the scrotum, the sac, when it gets hot, the cremaster muscles, they relax and it should sink. And that's a cooling strategy, because once the balls get hot, it's going to destroy the sperm, right? Proteins denature in heat. So if you're wearing something that's too tight and the scrotal sac cannot descend, then technically you're putting more pressure, more heat on that area. So being out there as a police or a soldier and you're not wearing the right clothing, or their clothing can be hot, that dark blue now that the police have, or the camouflage fatigue in our environment, it is hot, you know, so that can impact the quality or quantity of the sperm. And you combine that now with the other factors like the food, you know, so that's just one area. A common thing that many men do not factor in, getting hit in the area from as a child, you know, that physical trauma could have induced some damage, and later on when it comes to sperm production, there's nothing there. Could have a hydrocele, a varicocele, so there are structural problems. When you also think about infectious causes, so we, in our health system, we get immunized against mumps. There's a link between mumps and orchitis, where you get the inflammation of the testicles, and that inflammation can also affect the sperm quality later on in life. COVID, also there was a link between COVID and orchitis, inflammation of the testicles, which can also impact, you know. So there are several infectious problems that can affect fertility that they're unearthing now, and you see the problem in hindsight.
Prior to being exposed to certain diseases, if you had a stronger immune system, or you had a stronger profile,
right,
would it potentially, well, this may be anecdotal, I don't know if the research points to that, that you could have better outcomes if you were better prepared?
Naturally, your immune system, it's a system, and it's the more efficient or robust your immune system is, then you should be protected more against, any infection.
Right.
Notwithstanding that, your immune system will produce toxic chemicals because if it's working effectively and efficiently, then you're going to have waste products like your reactive oxygen species that also can damage your DNA, which then can cause mutations. So it's not to say that if your immune system is up on par, it means that you can't have negative ramifications from that also. But effectively, your body should be able to come in and mop up and clean up and expel, because it's a genius designer.
Looking at from a solutions-based stance or things we could do to improve the situation, I've often read studies that talks about, the link of a simple micronutrient like, say, zinc and the improvement of testosterone. This is a kind of a twofold question, really. Is there a positive correlation between healthy testosterone and fertility? And if you were to suggest any micronutrient, any vitamins, minerals that could help improve sperm quality or testosterone if it had a link, is there any?
All right, so yes, definitely, and zinc and selenium are two that readily come to mind. Because they do play a role in that microanatomy of the sperm cell. And many times the sperm quality is poor. It could be on the background of deficient nutrient. And you do have foods which have more antioxidants in them: fruits, avocados, oysters, nuts, your peanuts, your cashew, and so on. But something that men especially should know is that testosterone, it's made naturally in our body, right? The signal is coming from the brain chemistry, and it signals the hypothalamus, signals the pituitary, sends messenger hormones down to the testes, which makes the testosterone. But it's within a certain range or bracket. So men who take testosterone, if you're not quantifying how much is in your body, then there's a feedback inhibition loop. Your body is going to say, hey, this is way too much, and it's going to cut back on the natural production. So instead of getting more, you do yourself injustice and get less. And less testosterone now, that can affect your sperm making machinery to make quality sperm. So it's always important, you don't, just like alcohol, you don't binge on because it could have the effects that you're not looking to get. So yes, the testosterone can cause the dilation of blood vessels and that energy, the demand to bulk up or to get all of that you're looking for. But in terms of fertility health now, it's important to keep that balance. And that's another key word there. Yeah.
We're going to look a little bit at the females for a moment as well. We've seen the upward tick of polycystic ovarian syndrome. Is there any link with that? And also mentioning again PCOS with insulin resistance. Drastic uptick with that with lifestyle. So are you finding correlation with that and fertility in women?
Yes, I mean, in the clinical setting, I am seeing a lot more younger females with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and many times it's linked to that resistance in insulin, in basically an inability to break down stored sugars. As physicians tend to treat, we can give a tablet, commonly go to metformin, but it's always good to, because PCOS has a variety of presenting symptoms, the increase in facial hair, the putting on the body weight. So it's good to know that, again, activity can sensitize your receptors to get more efficient at picking up your insulin and burning your sugars, right? So you literally can help your body to treat PCOS. Why the incidence has gone up so much, I personally think it has to do with the lifestyle. And again, we go back to the sedentary lifestyle, we go back to the foods that they're eating, because once you start changing the microenvironment, there's something called epigenetic. I'll use this analogy. So if you have a son and you were actively lifting weights, the ability or the chance of your son to bulk up is going to be quicker than a male whose dad was not, say he's foreign to the gym, never did that. So your whole genetics are going to get modified based on what they're exposed to. So if I lead a life where I'm sedentary, I'm getting obese, I'm eating a lot of snacks and sugars, and then I'm going to be changing my genetics so that when I'm passing it on, there's some form of inheritance, you know. So that's something to be aware of. But definitely PCOS, I'm seeing an uptick, and I link it to the lifestyle, the change in the lifestyle now.
Right. So we also see in the Jamaican culture, there are these, I mean, predominantly it's Rasta men who go around with these tonics and herbs and say this strong back portion will help you with everything to do with production and everything. What's the take on that? Is there any truth to any of this?
And they have the evidence to show, right? Yeah. Right. So, I mean, if you look on, say, Irish moss, it does have a lot of the zinc in there, and some of those essential nutrients are found in these drinks. So, maybe somehow, as you say, anecdotally, they made that connection. But when you think about Rasta's levity was about healthy living and exercise and so on. So it ties into this holistic type of health that we do promote. And if you think of one example, my neighbor, Dr. Knife, said for 20 years he hasn't eaten anything cooked. And I said, really, Knife? So yeah, so he grows everything, and one of the problems with that is vitamin B deficiency, because vegans would think that there is no meat source, but he educated me that he eats the bee comb, the honeybee, and that's where his source of vitamin B is from, you know. So it's health literacy, health education is very important, that you understand, you know. So don't dismiss it just because the rest saying look into it. There's so much information out there now that you can read and educate yourself, you know, about.
So, I mean, it seems to tie up all into some particulars that, I mean, we have within our society here at Spry, or our system and culture, which is, it leans towards metabolic health. It leans towards I would say, insulin resistance. It goes with particular philosophies that doesn't provide guarantees, but creates a culture or a room for the body to operate at its optimal. Which seems to me, from what the discussion we've been having, is if we have that optimal room without all the other incidents like, I mean, trauma, etc., or disease, we could create an environment for healthy profile in both men and women if we take preventative health seriously.
Definitely. And I will say that, well, I have a preference. I mean, different physicians will have a different preference, but I prefer prevention to the cure. I mean, if you have a goal, I mean, you mentioned the word metabolic health, but let's just say you will understand the concept of metabolic stress and hypertrophy. So if you want to, say, bulk up quickly by basically overdoing, you're breaking down your muscles and so on, you would have to endure that, burn that lactic acid, which is toxic, so you can build, you know, so there's a purpose for that. But what I would always encourage is that rather than going with just a feeling, do evidence-based testing. So if it's a female that she's going down the road of fertility, we encourage do your AMH, which is your anti-Müllerian hormone, which gives an indication to the follicular reserve. With PCOS, it tends to be higher because it's polycystic, so you're going to be high, and it can help to cue you if a woman has PCOS. And likewise with a man, whatever you're doing, whether you're an athlete or you're a soldier, police, working out, get your semen tested, know what it looks like.
How is that test?
A semen analysis?
Yeah.
Well,
is it something readily available?
It's readily available. It's readily available. The University of the West Indies does it. Several of the labs will do it. We do it. Jamaica Fertility, Caribbean Fertility Clinic, we do it. And the guys can come in.
So tell us a bit more about your setup in terms of, say, a male or a female wanted to come in to check their capabilities of what they're producing.
Okay, well, for the males, for the SAs, we call them semen analysis, you make an appointment and we encourage them to, I guess, 3 days prior, they would have to, I guess, masturbate or have intercourse so that when they're producing the sample, it's a quote-unquote fresh sample. And I believe it's on Mondays to Fridays. I have to check the exact date. I think the cost is 10,000. And they will be contacted within a week with the result. It's if you ask me, very educational. They could even get a picture of what, because a microscope, and you look through the microscope and you literally count.
Right.
And we work with the World Health Organization standards. So it's an international standard. So,
and then females?
For females, no. Well, that is more a thorough history, and we normally facilitate that initial history and pretty much distill what the problem is, and based on what that problem, because a lot of women will come thinking that, oh, I need IVF. That's your in vitro fertilization.
Right.
It's expensive.
Right.
And sometimes it's not that is the issue that they would need. So the diagnosing, the history, the exam is key. And then if there is, say, an anatomical cause, then now we'd usher them on to the fertility specialist, obstetrician, gynecologist that we work closely with, and that would be Dr. Frederick.
Right.
And we've had so many great results, Right. So
Wow.
it's good things happening.
So is it fair to say that tracking as a means of a health marker, what your sexual health is able to produce or your fertility health is able to produce, is also an indicator to balance health?
I would include it as one of the criterias, yes, because people probably remember in high school, I tell you my background, I'm a teacher at heart. We used to teach this concept, the 7 characteristics of life. And I used to give a mnemonic called Mrs. Grain to help you to remember it. So it was the movement, the respiration, the sensitivity reacting to our stimuli, growth, excretion, nutrition, right? All those are part of it. So if you look on the 7 characteristics of life, reproduction is one. So if you're going to measure health as a people and you're losing your ability to reproduce, are you really healthy? You see, Minister Tufton now understandably, people are going to push back because the economic times are more difficult. Having a child, it's very responsible, and the reality is that the cost is real. But if 2 adults are responsible, I personally, your parents did it, so what's stopping you from doing it?
Right.
So yes, I do include fertility and reproductive health as part of the whole holistic setup for good health.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, lots of information today. Really appreciate Dr. Karim for coming in and giving us his time.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
Well, you provided us so much insight. I didn't even know there was so much other fluid within semen and how it comes out, etc. So there's so much information there, guys. And let's not just sit on the information. Let's share it. Let's take it. If you need any help, we've got the Jamaica Fertility setup that's here to help you guys. We will try and put it on our screen so you can see and you can check them out. And your health is very important, guys. It transfers into many different things. So keeping active and managing what you intake is an insurance policy.
Yes.
And it can help you, maybe not now, but in the future. So look at the value of health in the long term and not just the immediate costs, because you can do it for free. You can go to walk, or you can, lift items in your backyard. So
True.
Thanks again for joining us, guys, and we hope this information definitely helps you. All right.
All right, man.